Hi, my name is Jonathan Weber, and I'm the Deputy Director of Florida Conservation Voters. Earlier this week, on September 8th, President Donald Trump made a campaign stop in Jupiter, Florida, where he signed an order extending a moratorium on oil drilling off Florida's Gulf and Atlantic coasts and off the coast of Georgia and South Carolina. I wanted to take a moment to set the record straight for conservation voters. Donald Trump is not pro-environment, or is he anti-offshore oil drilling? And here's why. Trump is leaving Florida's coastal economy in uncertainty by only giving 10 years of protection. The U.S. House has already passed bills that would establish permanent bans on both coasts of Florida. Trump could have offered similar permanent protection with his executive order, but he chose to do the bare minimum, which is extending an existing moratorium to get a cheap news hit to garner votes. Even with Trump's order, there is no real protection from offshore oil drilling in the central and western Gulf, which of course is where the BP Deepwater Horizon oil spill disaster started, and we know how that affected Florida. Trump wants to expand offshore drilling in those places, and he and his administration are on the record pushing for it time and again. Just Google it, it's there. Donald Trump says he wants to protect Florida from oil drilling after proposing the most radical expansion of offshore drilling in history. His record really speaks for itself, but he's hoping you weren't paying attention to the last 4 years of his disastrous and dangerous presidency. If Donald Trump had any genuine concern about pollution from oil, it would have led to a ban on oil drilling in all United States waters and sensitive lands, and then ultimately to abandoning oil as a fuel because it is the #1 cause of greenhouse gases, which is leading to climate change. As I listened to Trump's speech, I couldn't help but think about his eager withdrawal from the Paris Climate Accord. I also thought about how Trump has dismantled environmental protections left and right, directly impacting our communities with dirty air and water, and he's unapologetic about it. Trump's work to degrade the environment started on day one of his administration, and even just back in this August, he rolled back some really important safeguards. For example, he rolled back guidelines for coal power plants, dumping toxic wastewater filled with dangerous pollutants like lead, mercury, arsenic into the same wateries that families like yours and mine drink from and play in. In August, he also finalized plans to open up the pristine Arctic National Wildlife Refuge to oil drilling, delivering another bailout to his friends in the oil and gas industry at the expense of ancestral lands and pristine, majestic wilderness and wildlife habitat. That refuge is ground zero for climate change, and selling it out to big polluters is unpopular and it's downright awful. We know that Trump is a friend of the oil and gas industry, but he's also trying desperately to eke out a win here in Florida in November. So what does Trump's moratorium actually mean? At face value, not much. But it is clear Trump is trying to skirt around this issue in order to trick key Florida voters. Trump's moratorium is the definition of greenwashing. It's covering your past anti-environmental agenda with a thin disguise, use a highly tested and polled issue like offshore oil drilling to trick Florida voters into thinking that Trump could possibly be pro-environment, all while refusing to say climate change or take any kind of real actions to reduce our reliance on dirty fossil fuels and reduce carbon emissions. Here in Florida, we feel the impacts of climate change every single day. But Trump continues to ignore science and the experts and has completely failed to protect our health and safety. And with his speech earlier this week and his teethless offshore oil drilling moratorium, he's hoping voters will ignore his 4-year record of degrading our land, our water, and our democracy. Conservation voters in Florida, don't be fooled. Thank you.